As the artist in that story said, art doesn't have to be expensive or about expensive things. In the 1950s, in Britain and the United States, a group of artists decided art could be about ordinary things: comics, mass-produced objects, advertising, even soup cans.
They were the pop artists, and one of the best known, as famous for making himself famous as for his work, was Andy Warhol.
This particular painting my father did a few years after my uncle died. My father was 6 years older than Andy, and he's the older one, and Andy's the younger one. Andy was about 13 years old in this picture.
James Warhola is the son of Paul Warhola, an elder brother of legendary pop artist Andy Warhol. He's been invited to co-curate an exhibition at the Elements shopping mall featuring works by his uncle. Apart from referencing well-known Warhol pieces like the Campbell's soup cans and portraits of Marilyn Monroe, the show also features previously unpublished works by Warhol.
The way I acquired these drawings is that he used to give me all his old art supplies along with sketchbooks. And I kept these sketchbooks kind of intact all the way up until a few years ago.
James Warhola himself is an illustrator of children's books. He says many in his family, including his grandmother, were enlisted in helping Andy with his work before he set up the factory to mass produce it. James Warhola often uses his encounters with his uncle as subjects for his own work.
It shows all of us working at in his studio because he did all his early pop art paintings in his house. I'm the young boy here in the striped red shirt, and I remember this painting specifically because he asked me if I could rub on the numbers. Older brother George, he liked to stretch canvases, and he learned how to do those. It's my grandmother. She was very helpful to my uncle. She did all kinds of colorgraphic work for his illustrations. My brothers and sisters were always talking about how when we hear a painting going for like $75 million, we find it so hard to believe because when we grew up, we knew these paintings and like we'd be climbing through them and looking at them.
James says this isn't the way his uncle thought art should be.
He said that quite a lot. He thought that art should be all around us, it should be accessible. He kind of mass-produced it. He used the silk screening process that allowed him to do multiples. He first started off with the soup can, and the idea was that he was painting an ordinary object. It allowed people to realize that anything can be art.
That's why Andy Warhol described his own work as deeply superficial and firmly believed in the mass production of art pieces.
He wanted people to judge his paintings just by what they saw, and he didn't want to explain them. So in a way he said, you know, they're superficial.
The pieces are on show until August 31st.